A very good evening and a warm welcome to all of you in today's session on mastering communication and presentation skills for transitioning to senior roles. A heartfelt thanks for taking time out and joining us here for this session, where you could have been spending your time elsewhere, but you chose to be here and to put your time here for this session. Aspiring for growth and moving to senior roles is something that we all carry. Among many factors and many strengths, presentation and communication skills and mastering them is a crucial factor. Let's get started and see what is it that we have today to understand, to find out. We are going to cover the whys and the what of presentation and communication skills. We are going to also look at the sub-skills and a 45-day action plans. So here we get started. Yeah, so this is, as I said, we'll share today the whys and whats. We move into the sub-skills and then we look at a 45-day action plan. And the presentation, today's session, is meant for the engineers who are aspiring for growth and for moving to senior roles. You get the most of this session by staying tuned till the end and asking you lots of questions. One suggestion that I have for you is that kindly park your questions with you, and at the end of today's session, we are going to have a Q&A section, and you can please put your questions there. Let me introduce myself before we go ahead. Myself, Mansee Vashist. I've been in the IT corporate world for 30 long years before turning into an entrepreneur. I have had the privilege of being employed with companies like NIT Limited, with Wipro Technologies, with Tech Mahindra. I've been the global head for balanced scorecards for Tech Mahindra. And I'm now an emotional and mental wellness coach, a licensed and certified emotional intelligence coach, a mindfulness coach. I'm India's first soul coaching practitioner. I'm also a certified handwriting expert. So I am a handwriting analyst, a handwriting therapist, and a signature expert. So to say, I'm a graphologist, graphotherapist, and a signature expert. I'm also an Akashic reader. I work with executive leaders, I work with individuals, and also with corporates. My passion is to help executives and individuals to improve their relationship with themselves and therefore move ahead on the journey of personal and professional growth. Now, let's see what more we have in today's session. So, as we all know, it is generally said that communication skills and presentation skills go hand in hand if we have to move into senior roles, if we have to transition into senior roles. Let's see, next. Let's understand the why and what. Why do we need these? And what do these entail? The why, as it is often talked about, that communication skills, presentation skills are needed when we have to work with our stakeholders, when we have to convince our stakeholders, management, leadership, present them some very amazing ideas, or present them or share with them critical information and have their buy-ins, help in decision making. So it means not only confining ourselves to technical information, because if one is mostly into the engineering roles, one is dealing with technical information, but how to take that technical information and complex ideas into simple information for stakeholders is also part of decision making, because it helps them in decision making. Then working with various teams, because there are several cross-functional teams. So how to bring all of them on one common platform through effective communication is again where communication plays a big role. For persuasion, for managing teams, for motivating teams, for driving changes, for buying in, for getting the buy-in on various strategic initiatives, for motivating the teams, or resolution so many conflicts that come up, communication and presentation skills help. So this is the why part of it. And this is again something which more or less we all get to know from different aspects of either work or from seniors, that why communication and presentation skills are important. What I would like to bring your attention to is the what of communication and presentation skills. The what has got two parts. One is the thought and the mindset, and the second one is the skills. Let's go deeper into that. The thought and the mindset is where there is a major roadblock that exists. I'll share with you very soon how it's a major roadblock, because it's the thought and the mindset which stops us at various points when we are looking at any kind of skill development. Communication and presentation skills is not an exception here, because thought level or the mindset is the major roadblock. That's the reason why this needs to be hammered earlier and harder. Means we need to work on the thought and the mindset mostly when it comes to mastering the communication and presentation skills. The second part is the skill, which is definitely very important, but it is comparatively easier compared to thought or mindset, and it requires more practice. So if you were to give some kind of a weightage, or if we were to allocate some weightage to thought or skills, I would say thoughts and mindsets is about 65 to 70% of weightages it carries when it comes to communication and presentation. And the skill part of it is about 30 to 35%. So to reiterate the point, mostly it happens that we try to give stress on how to speak, how much to say, where do I go where do I go fast, where do I go slow, or we put so much of emphasis on making amazing presentations, putting so many charts or diagrams or images. That's the secondary part, because that is the skill part. What we first need to deal with is the thought and the mindset. And let's see what is that. The first thing in thought and mindset is the fear of failure, fear of being stuck, fear of being judged. That if I speak, what is it that people are going to think about me? What if people think I can't speak properly? What if people think I can't present properly? So it's really a very, very different thing that what do people actually think, but it's our own thoughts which stop us from moving ahead. So feels like messing up, feels like freezing, feels like what if I'm not able to answer? So there's the other part in the thought and the mindset is there are so many what ifs. What if I freeze? What if I forget? What if I don't know the answer? What if I'm unable to answer the queries? What if I know but I'm still not able to say? And there is one more aspect, which is I don't know. So we start thinking that I don't know how to start. I don't know maybe how to answer queries. I am not the expert on this. Will I be able to handle this? So if you look at in the entire section of things, this is the major part, which I said, this is the 70% of the things where we are stopped by our own mindset. We fall short of growing ahead, of moving ahead, because we are stopped by our thoughts. We are doubting ourselves, we are stopped by our fear, and we are stuck in the I don't know. Let's see, what is it that we need to do? So identification and addressal of all the obstacles or the barriers or hindrances is very important, because once we identify and then we take action on these. So whichever of these, if you feel is applicable to you, you need to look at that in greater detail. And we are going to look at various parts of these as we move ahead. What needs to be done once we know that whether it is my fear, whether it is my self-doubt, whatever it is? The first thing that we need to know is that once I know what is my fear or what is my problem, what is my obstacle, what's my roadblock, identifying and winning it over is very essential. The most important thing that the audiences listen to is your confidence. Once you're presenting or once you are communicating whatever you need to communicate, what is most important is how confident are you? Whether it is your tone, whether it is your voice, whether it is your body language, all of it adds to it. The first thing that gets the attention of the audience is your confidence. And how does confidence come? It comes with knowledge, with practice, and with relatability. So, of course, we have to know the subject well. Of course, we have to rehearse. Here, practice also means rehearsing and relatability. So, whatever we are talking is all connected and not disjointed. Once we get confident, we start owning the room, as we say, owning the stage, because we are clear on what we are talking. We are clear on what we want to convey and with confidence. Whatever elements are there, we also need to weave them together in the form of a story. And storytelling is, of course, one of the very popular elements of good communication, one of the strongest elements of good communication skills. How we work on these, it's all covered in the upcoming slides. So before we go ahead, let me quickly summarize what we have talked so far. We said communication and presentation skills are definitely very important. They go hand in hand when it comes to moving to senior roles. And we said we will look into the whys and whats. When we looked into why, we looked at why communication and presentation skill is important, how it helps us build trust, builds our credibility, helps us drive change, and also motivating our teams. Then we moved into the what part of it. And we said what helps or what is most important in the communication and presentation skills. And there we saw that first is our mindset, which is about 70% of the entire piece, and approximately 35 to 30% is the skill part. So it is very important that we are able to work on our fears, we are able to work on our I don't know, or we are able to work on our what ifs. Quickly, I'll take you there. This is what I'm referring to, that when we look at the mindset or the thoughts, our fears, our what ifs, and what are I don't know become a major base, and that's what we need to identify for us, which is the bigger showstopper, which is the bigger roadblock, and we work on that. And here we looked at the most important thing is confidence, which comes with knowledge, with practice, and with relatability. Let's move ahead. Let's understand, when we say communication, what do we mean by that? So communication does not mean it doesn't only mean how we speak or how we write. That's what typically people think, that communication means how am I going to speak? How am I going to express myself verbally or in writing? Communication also comprises of many other things. It is for resilience, it's for assertiveness, it's for effective and active listening, it's for empathy, it's also for conflict resolution. If I can put it all together, I will say communication and presentation, especially communication, is very much related to emotional intelligence also. And when I say resilience, what do I mean by that? Wherever we are speaking, wherever we are communicating, to be able to put our piece authentically and emphatically, and to be able to bring it up each time is resilience. To be able to put it up assertively, that means being polite as well as being firm, is assertiveness. Active listening means being very sensitive to what the other person is saying. Sometimes the other person or other set of people may not be speaking, as in they may not be verbal about it, but one needs to still be sensitive enough to understand what they are saying. Sometimes it could be from their body language, That's part of active listening. Being sensitive to what people are really wanting to communicate is being empathetic. To work on all of this, one needs focus and, of course, perseverance. So before we move ahead into the skill part of communication and presentation, this has been the how part so far. And what I would like to emphasize is that whatever we covered so far, and also in terms of resilience, assertiveness, active listening, being empathetic, requires focus and active working. Let's move next on the why part. An important part I would like to state here is that shifting from technical to strategic. This means we are shifting our focus from only looking at the technical problem to moving towards strategic issues. That means, one, we are looking at how do we communicate also the technical problem into simpler ways, which into maybe the business language, right? And also the focus shifts on leadership, on vision, on stakeholders, and the management of the stakeholders. When we look at communication, it's about, if we look at the types of communication, so it's essentially, as I said, verbal communication, written communication, and non-verbal. So verbal is essentially maybe receiving feedback, maybe giving feedback, leading the meeting, and written communication is on emails and technical documentations and the project reports. So let's see, how do we work on the communication? Let's look at a few parts of that. The developing communication skills, as I said. So when we are developing the verbal communication skill, one, we have to ensure we're speaking with clarity. Of course, there needs to be confidence and clarity. The technical jargon or the technical language needs to be kept aside. It must be either minimal use, or keeping in mind the audiences, it may just be simple language, no technical jargon. And as I had mentioned earlier, using storytelling, meaning relating the various aspects. So when we talk about storytelling, we are saying, let there be a key message. We are talking about that there will be relatable characters. We are talking about that there needs to be a problem to solve. We are talking about an emotional appeal, whether it is about the audience feeling empathetic, or they're feeling curious, or they're feeling interested in whatever is going to happen, and then the whole structure to the story and a call to action. So these are the few things which can be used in storytelling. The next part is written communication, and let's see, what do we do? What do we keep in mind for written communication, for communication skills in written communication? Keeping it simple, keeping it in bullet points, and using the language which your audience is going to understand. One more point which I would like to share with you here is that when you're writing an email, especially this is especially applicable, when you're writing an email, could also be for making presentations, but especially when writing emails, if we keep in mind what the reader would need to know, what kind of questions the reader of the email may have after looking at that email. I understand, however, all questions may not be answered, but if we try to anticipate what all questions the reader might have in their mind after reading the email, those could be answered, once again in bullet forms that, you don't have to really say that these could be the questions. We can just say, okay, following points, or in whatever way you would want to communicate. But keeping in mind what they would expect and answering and putting that on the email is very helpful. Something like that could also be done in the presentations, but especially in emails, it's very important because the person is not there right in front of you. Then we look at the nonverbal communication, and we shall cover that in detail in the upcoming slides. So we looked at the communication skills where we talked about the verbal communication, we talked about the written communication, and we said the common point which comes is keep it brief, keep it simple, keep it away from the technical jargon, and what the audience or what the receiver of the information seeks to know. to keep that in mind and provide that information helps. And of course, using storytelling. Now let's move on to presentation skills and looking at the role of the presentation skills in the senior positions. So of course, it helps in decision making. It helps it also helps the stakeholders. It also helps the senior leadership when they need to take some decisions, that what kind of information is being shared with them, whether it is about the status reports, it is about the status update, or any risk or anything for that matter. It is essential, as it says, for project proposal, for the status, and for engagement and management of stakeholders. Let's see what more do we have here. So while creative, effective presentation, structure of the presentation is very important. So where we have the key message, the body of the presentation, and the conclusion, which means the summarizing points. Now the trend is becoming more and more to make the presentation more stylish, to add more and more stuff to it, whether it is about the charts, the graphs, the images, and all of that. Simplicity is the key. This is something we must always keep in mind, that any aids, whether it is graph, image, or anything for that matter, is only for the support of the audience to understand what is being presented and not to just make them get lost in so much bombardment of information. So that's an important tip. This, as I already talked about, that when we use visual aids for enhancing the communication. So of course we can make use of all the visual tools that we have available with us, charts, bars, images, or anything. But the idea is again to keep it simple, and they should convey the key message without making the audiences getting lost. There should not be too much of text or too much of visual information. Keeping it simple is helpful. How do we engage the audience? When we are able to have eye contact with them, when you are able to ask them questions, when we are able to create interest in them and also answer the questions and making it as interactive as possible. And yes, any information that you want to share, tailoring it as per the not just the needs, but also tailoring it as per the profile of your audience is always going to be very, very helpful to you also and for your audiences as well. Let's move ahead and see what more in creative, effective presentation. So for the non-technical stakeholders, of course, we need to ensure that we are not using the technical language, we are keeping it in simple words, and also very important to see, because non-technical stakeholders are usually from senior management or from senior leadership. So whatever we are sharing, how is it aligning with organizational goals is again important. And whenever you have tough questions, how do you handle that? You can always take a pause. You can always ensure that you've got the question right. So you can request for the question to be repeated. And many times we may not have the answer to what the question is asked. No worries. You can also always say that you will come back with more information. Always take the permission and say that I'll come back with more information. It's an accepted thing. Of course, on the key matters, one needs to have the answers. We need to be well prepared. But if there is something where you need more time, be open enough and tell that you need more time to come back with more information. Taking feedback and working and improving your presentation and communication is as vital as it is in other areas. So keeping in mind what went well in a presentation or keeping in mind what didn't go well and incorporating those learnings when you are doing it the next time is always helpful. Moving ahead on this, as I said that I had mentioned one of the previous slides that we'll talk about the confidence in the body language. So having an open posture, meaning not blocking your arms, helps. Having a good eye contact helps. Smiling and making eye contact using hand gestures to emphasize the point, and always these open hands like this always also helps in the body language. I would also like to mention here that your tone and pitch also matters. Using voice modulation effectively in the presentation is again one of the helpful things. Time management in making your presentation more effective is a very, very important point. So ensure that your key points are conveyed first, they are prioritized, and you're keeping enough time for the Q&A. And how do you really manage your time? Doing practice, repeated practice before your session is a very helpful tip. And how do we prepare and we practice for success? The last bit, but the most important bit is, as I said, rehearsing the presentation, anticipating the questions that can come, and whatever you have in your presentation, whatever you want to test, whether it is the visuals, or your audios, doing all of it so that you're very confident that you will have a glitch-free presentation is very important. So we see that having a presentation where we have practiced this enough is very, very important. And now we move towards creating an effective plan. Sorry. Now we move towards creating an effective plan for the presentation, for developing the presentation and the communication skills. Now, let's see, we can divide this into 3 parts. The first part is laying the foundation and skill building for mastering the communication and presentation skills. The phase 2 is for advancement of the skill development, where we go a bit deeper into skills. I will be explaining each of these in the next slide. And then the phase 3, which is about application and doing the refinement. So what can be done is you could take up first doing, you can say a self-assessment to see where you are, which is a part of your foundation and skill building. So I'll explain all these steps in detail. And then where we work on brushing up our skills, honing our skills, and then doing practice. It could be sometimes doing a dummy presentation as if you're presenting to the senior leadership or to the top leadership, if not to the top, but maybe in your area, in your section, to the senior leadership you're presenting. You could just do a dummy thing for yourself, for your own practice. So let's see that when we divide our communication presentation skills action plan into 45 days and 3 milestones, right, of 15 days each, how can we work on those? So let's get started and see. So our phase 1, which is the foundation part. So I'll just take you back and show. This is the foundation and skill building that we are talking about. Here, what we do in this phase. So first step that what one needs to do is to look at self-assessment to see where one is falling short, and then setting goals accordingly. Before we work on this action plan for 45 days, I would once again like to reiterate, remember what we discussed at the beginning, the what and the why, right? The why part clear, where we talked about the importance of presentation and mastering the presentation communication skill. In the what part, we had said that there is mind block, there is mindset and our thoughts. That is the 70%, and the 30%, the 35% is on the skill part. So here I'm once again referring to that part, that when we do the foundation part, when we are in the phase 1, we again need to see where we are. We need to do a self-assessment and see where is it that what we are lacking. If we feel that right now we are facing issues with respect to maybe the fear part or the what if part or maybe the I don't know part, maybe you can plan separate time for that, and that can be in addition to your 45 days. It totally depends upon where you find yourself and the area on which you think that you need to work on, right? So self-assessment and goal setting means identifying your current communication strengths and weaknesses and setting the improvement goals. So where you feel, if you have a fear of public speaking, so I'm going to cover that all in this particular slide. But if there's a fear of public speaking, then of course, then there are various things that one can do. Start small. I'll tell you how. Uh, so in the first part, when you've done your self-assessment and you've maybe got some feedback, and you realize that you're fearful of speaking in front of people, then start speaking in smaller and familiar groups. You could start at home at the dining table, where you know that you are with your family, and you know it is safer to speak or to express your views and opinion on something. Start with that. Make it a bit more structured. Then you can do it with your friends. It is not a group discussion I'm talking about. When you feel that you want to speak on a topic, maybe for about just a minute in front of your friends and say, this is what I want to speak on. So these are safer groups. Your family, your friend circle, these are safer groups when you can just get started. So this was an example that when you're doing in self-assessment and goal setting, and if you realize that your finding is that you're fearful of public speaking, so what you can do, so this is fearful of public speaking is where you're doing the assessment. It's an example, as I said, you found the weakness, fearful for public speaking, and then key activities. When you say, fine, I'm setting a goal, a SMART goal, and as a part of that, I will first start with doing maybe a minute or 2 minutes speaking in my familiar setup. Could be my family, could be with my friends, right? And those of you who feel that you're able to come up with more concrete or more challenging issues. So whatever you find out, whatever is the area, whatever the issue you have, always remember, like other areas, having specific, measurable, actionable, and achievable, and realistic and target set goals will help, as we call them, the SMART goals. Then this is for day 1 to 5. Then moving to the next part is from day 6 to 10, understanding your audiences and purpose. So understanding that for every audience, what we are going to say, what we are going to communicate and present is going to be different. So you could take a technical topic and try to explain. Now, this again something you could start with first on paper, and then you can start maybe presenting it or communicating it, as I said, in familiar groups. So practice explaining a technical topic to technical audience, and also see how will you do that to a non-technical audience. And as we looked at it earlier, then when we talk about a technical topic to a non-technical audience, we have to talk about the way it is more appealing for them with respect to whether it is about the business benefits or it's about the business challenge or whatever kind of support is needed for them, means how it is to be conveyed to them, so that it is easier for them to understand and they are able to then either take decisions or provide support. So with this objective, with this keeping this in mind, explain a technical topic or a non-technical topic to audience. All these are first, you're doing it at a practice level. So maybe you could do this first, as I said, on paper and then in your familiar groups. Then from day 11 to day 15, look at your verbal communications, which is about improving the clarity and conciseness in speaking. Here, practice delivering a 3-minute speech. So before that, I said that maybe in some examples we took and we saw you could do it for a minute or so. But when it comes to verbal communication, that means focusing on the speech part. So practice delivering a 3-minute speech, record and review for clarity. So you can review it again and again. You can record it again and again and see what is it that needs more attention and what needs more change. So this is the foundation part. So this we talked about the phase 1, which is foundation and skill building. Moving to advanced and skill development, which is from day 16 to day 30. Let's see what is that. That's about structuring the presentation, which means whatever you want to present, organizing it. So start putting your information into a 5-slide presentation. You want to do more than 5 slides, it's up to you, but start giving structure to your presentation. After that, the next step is to look at how do we simplify complex information. So breaking down the complex information for different set of audience. So a complex topic again for a non-technical audience and for a technical audience. I have already shared with you just a few minutes back that for sharing with non-technical audience, we need to keep in mind who they are, what roles do they have, and it is always good to align whatever we are sharing or presenting with business benefits or business challenges so that it is more aligned with what they're wanting to look at, what they're wanting to understand, what information they're seeking. From day 6 to day 30 is about the visual design. From day 26 to day 30 is about the visual design, which is using visuals to support the communication effectively. So you can redo the slides with minimal text and whatever visuals you want to add. And of course, these days there are so many AI tools also which help. But here, the idea is not about usage of AI tools. Here, the idea is about how do you work on your communication and presentation skill. So it's more about what to present, how to present, what content. That's the focus here of what we are talking about. Then phase 3 is about, again, I'll go back and show you. So advanced skill development, we just covered, which was about structuring the presentation, simplifying the complex information and adding the visual part. And then we are moving into the application and the refinement part, which is now when we look at the 31 to 35, then we focus on the body language, which is the also improving the non-verbal communication, whether it is our posture, our gesture, our tonality, our pitch, everything. So whatever we have worked on, how we present and how do we effectively use the body language, and of course recording it for feedback. Then the next step is handling the Q&A, developing strategies for managing audiences, questions, and engaging them. So this could be sometimes when you're already anticipating the questions and you have maybe in the beginning you could have some questions already worked out and their answers also already worked out, and then practicing. So most commonly expected questions, what they could be and how you're going to answer them. Right? So sometimes there could be questions with respect to more clarity of information. Sometimes it could be where an audience might be thinking differently. So because you're practicing, so envisaging what audience could ask, what they could go for, taking into account all those factors while you are thinking of the questions. And then day 41 to 45 is about presenting to senior leadership. So what do I mean here is, it means you practicing as if you're presenting to senior leadership. So focusing on your high impact presentations, how are you going to deliver them to your senior leadership? And of course, with a lot of focus on, it could be a lot of focus on the project, or it could be on, on the status, or it could be on risk, or other things that they are, the future plan, whatever they are looking at, it could be that. So this is the 45-day program, which is 45-day program or the 45-day action plan. And the next steps after that is, one, always seeking feedback. So you identified what you want to work on, your communication and presentation skills, and you work on this. And as you keep improving on your communication and presentation skills, you keep presenting, always looking at feedback from the mentors and from your peers and improving that upon. It is also very important. One of the tips is that participate in speaking engagements. Look for the opportunities where you get to present, where you get to speak. And sometimes these opportunities, of course, within the organization, to improve on the presentation skills, to improve on the communication skills, one could also join certain events, whether it is industry events, so there are certain groups which are there, let's say, which is a Toastmasters club like that. So some organizations have Toastmasters club, for improving upon the communication and the presentation skills. And some of them, some of the Toastmasters clubs run at zonal levels. You could see that. That also helps. And joining various workshops to gain confidence in diverse communication scenarios will also help. So it's a process of continuous improvement. And that's all from my side. And next we will move on to the Q&A sections. So any questions that you have, I'll be more than happy to answer. Yeah, so just a minute, I'll just take a moment to go through all the questions. There's a comment where somebody said, is it okay if the conversation is short? I'm not sure if I have understood that. Okay. Yeah. Okay, so I see one question says how to chat with the stakeholders. Okay, yeah. So for communicating with the stakeholders, it's very important that we are able to understand who these stakeholders are, I mean, their role and what they are expecting from a communication or from a presentation. So usually it's the presentation which often happens with a stakeholder, but sometimes you could also get into a discussion mode with them. So one being able to understand, being able to envisage, as I would say, that a stakeholder, what a stakeholder is seeking to know. So whatever is the role of the stakeholder. So sometimes a stakeholders could be someone, let's say, from a senior role who is from a different department, right? Let's say in an IT project, it could be somebody from the infrastructure team who is providing support. So in that case, understanding what is it that a stakeholder is expecting, and then to give the information in a clear, in a structured manner, with a lot of with clarity of information. If you have any data, you could share that data also. That will help. See, even the stakeholder is looking for information because the person has the name itself is stakeholder, so the person has something at stake, correct? So because the stakeholder many times might be wanting to make a decision, even that could be a reason. So looking at what a stakeholder is expecting and then sharing information with respect to whether it, as I said, whether it is data, whether it is in kind of a risk, or if they're looking at some kind of a status, would be helpful. And you can always also ask them that what is it, what more could I share, or maybe before the meeting or the presentation, you can also say that these are the key things that we are going to cover. If there's anything else that you want us to cover, let us know. That would also be helpful. Yeah, I am not able to see any other question other than that. Are there any other questions? As when we were talking about the presentation skills, when we talked about the what part of it, and I emphasized upon the mindset and the thoughts. I would again re-emphasize that this is a big showstopper that we face, because this is where people get stuck. Either the focus shifts on making very jazzy presentations, which should not be the case, because we have to first focus on what we present. Okay, so one sec, I need to comment. How to win interview, because sometimes there's questions we know answer, but we fear how to say and we come in panic situation. So how to do there in limited time? Okay, yes, happens that one gets very panicky that what do I do in an interview if I don't know the answer, or maybe if I know the answer, what if I fumble? See, the first thing that you can do is, if there is water, grab that glass of water, have water, and take, at least you can spend some 30 seconds and take a deep breath. If there's no water, you can even ask them and say if you could get some water. See, what will help is gaining some confidence. As I said, that audience, even if it's the person who's taking an interview, is listening to your confidence first, right? So if you don't know something, you could say that, well, this is not I'm very aware of. Or if you know a little bit, you can say whatever you are aware of and say, this is what is my information, only this much I know, rest I'm not aware of. The person will also appreciate your transparency, right? If you think you know the answer, but somehow you're getting nervous and you're not able to answer, because that is also a possibility that happens, then as I said, get some water and take a deep breath. You can spend 30 seconds, you can spend even 60 seconds, which is a minute, right? And take deep breath, because you need to consolidate yourself. And you can say that, could you just take a minute here? Trust me, the person on the other side is also a human being. The person doesn't mind giving you a minute or two. You can gather yourself and you can answer. So how to say I don't know in a single presentation multiple times. I'm sure it is not acceptable, and many will think I don't have broad knowledge on the topic. Yes, I do agree with you. So I am not saying that in the presentation we keep saying I don't know, because when we are going for a presentation, of course we need to be well prepared on the topic. As long as we are well prepared on the topic which we need to cover, then there are questions that are asked which are, let's say, a bit out of the coverage of the topic, saying, let me get back to you. So you can always say, let me get back to you. So first question was about an interview. In the interview, if you don't know and you say, well, this I'm not aware of, or I know this much, is fine. In a presentation, first is, as I said, confidence. Confidence, as I also had shared, that confidence will come with knowledge, with practice, and with relatability. So, of course, whatever we are presenting on, we have to know that, right? Still, if there is something which we don't know, then maybe they're asking for some data or they're asking for some more information. And then if you say, allow me, I will come back to you, it's acceptable. And you could say that maybe 2-3 times if you feel in an hour-long presentation. If that is the case, you could say, but be very sure. I mean, try your best that whatever are the key points where your presentation and what your presentation is about. You know that. For example, if it is about some critical issues coming up in the project, and if you're presenting there, then it is important that you are aware of the issues which are there. Or if there has been some customer escalation, and if you're sharing that, then it is important that you are aware of that, right? Yeah, but still, if you need some time and if say, I'll come back, it's okay to say so. What strategies do you recommend for staying composed and recovering quickly if you go blank during a presentation? Good question. So, if you go blank during a presentation, see, 2-3 things always help. Whether it's a presentation or any kind of communication that you're doing. Take a minute or two and you could do some deep breathing. And it is not necessary that the person or the set of people are also going to observe that you're doing a deep breathing. Not necessary, right? Because when we do deep breathing, what happens is you could just do this even 3-4 times as well. Deep breathing improves the supply of oxygen to the body. and to the brain. And that really helps us because why we have, let's say, why do we go blank? Mostly it happens during stress, right? You could get some water if you want, or you could just say, give me a minute, and just go back to whichever slide you were on or whatever you were talking about, just asking them for a minute, excusing yourself for 30 seconds. As I said, you could have water, you could do some deep breathing. You could say, yeah, okay, let me get back to what we were talking about. Remember, your audience is looking at your confidence. If you've practiced well, you know your subject well, minor glitches here and there, they will understand because they can see through that you know what you're talking. They know that you're confident in whatever you are presenting, and that's what is important. They're humans, they do understand. So it's not that somebody is out there to reject, or there's somebody who's out there to judge people or to fail people. No, as long as we know what we are saying, we talk, what we know, what we are presenting, we have the information with us, it's all fine. And mostly these things happen when things like, when we go blank or when we are not very sure, because we get very nervous, and therefore talking to ourselves before our presentation, telling ourselves, I can do it, I've already done whatever is needed, whatever is needful, will also help you. Hope that answers your question. If there are any more questions, I'll be more than happy to answer. Okay, there's, madam, is it important to speak English fast, or we can speak slowly because some people talk so fast? Be comfortable at your own pace. So of course one doesn't have to be very slow because other people will lose patience. One doesn't have to be very fast. Be who you are. We don't have to copy others. When we copy others, we lose our own essence. So what your audience is looking at, how much do you know what you're talking about? What kind of a knowledge do you have about the subject that you're talking about? For example, even if, as I said, you're talking about your project, the status of your project, how much do you know about it? That's what they're looking at. So do not, as we all keep saying, do not go for perfection. No, whatever pace you have, if you feel you speak very slow and you want to really improve your speed a little bit, then you can work on that. But don't think that you have to speak fast, you have to speak slow. As long as people can understand what you're talking and you can honor the time slot given to you, it's fine. Any other questions? Could you share some tips on how to avoid overcommitting, especially when trying to make a positive impression at work? Good question. Yes. So what happens is when we are presenting, I'll read the question once again so that in case anybody else has not got the question, they get them. The question is, could you share some tips on how to avoid overcommitting, especially when trying to make a positive impression at work? So because we just want that the impression should be good, we end up overcommitting. So wherever we are not sure, we could say, can I come back to you on this? I'll come back with the timelines on this. And we don't say I'll come back only. You will say, can I come back to you by tomorrow? Or can I come back to you in next 2 hours? So when you're giving them a timeline, and take a timeline that works for you. If you have to work on a project plan and project, let's say some kind of a project rescheduling you have to do, and you know you can't do that in 2 hours, then don't commit. So overcommitting never helps because it puts on additional pressure, and then it is like people will also not trust, because if one is overcommitting and not fulfilling that commitment, because overcommitment is definitely difficult to fulfill. So what you can do is wherever you need more time to be able to give you can say a bit realistic, a bit realistic, a bit aggressive, whatever you think works for you. You can always ask for time and say, could I come back on this in next maybe 4 hours or tomorrow morning, and then you can work on whatever you need to work on and then convey. Does it help? Next question. Whenever I present my presentation, that time in the back of my mind, I'm always scared of what if someone will ask question and I won't answer. Yes. So this is what I had said, that 70% of the part of the what part is the thought and the mindset, right? So, and we think, you remember that slide where I shared it, what if? So what if I'm not able to answer? It is that part. And thanks for asking all these questions. To everyone whosoever has asked the questions so far. So when you say that, what if I am not, if somebody will ask question and I won't answer? So at that time, we have to challenge our own thought. This thought will come usually before the presentation. Sometimes can come during the presentation also, but before the presentation. So we have to challenge our thought then, and we have to ask ourselves, why am I thinking like that? What makes me think that people will ask and I won't be able to answer? Because we talked about it today, that before the presentation, we try to anticipate what kind of questions can come, and then we try to work on those answers. So if you have done that homework where you've tried to anticipate the questions, you have tried to work on these answers, one, that will add to your confidence. And then when this fear comes in, what if I'm not able to answer? Then first of all, challenge yourself and say, why am I thinking like that? I have anticipated the questions. And yet if somebody has asked, and if I don't have an answer, if I don't have a ready-made answer, then I can say that give me some time, and this is whatever information, if you have any pertinent information, provide that and say, right now I have this information and allow me whatever time, a day or whatever you think is the time, and I will come back to you with detailed information on that. It's more, so this question is absolutely related to what I said in the beginning, that about our thoughts and mindset. So it is more the fear that comes to us. What if I don't know? What if I'm not able to answer? And these are very, very normal and natural fears that comes in the beginning. We handle them this way. So work on that and tell yourself, why am I asking like that, right? Okay, how can I balance my curiosity and asking questions without overwhelming others or coming across as overly inquisitive? Mm, uh, let me see. So let me see with the questions. How can I balance my curiosity and asking questions without overwhelming others or coming across as overly inquisitive? See, as long as the questions are pertinent to whatever is being either presented or whatever is being shared, that's fine. And we do have to say that, one, we should not be the only one asking all the questions. Other people also need time and opportunity to be able to ask questions. So we need to be giving that as well. And few things you can see, that what is it that is of utmost important for you to understand and ask those questions. Few of them you can even note down and see if you can figure it out on your own, or would you need to go back and then ask questions. Sometimes you can even tell the concerned person that, is it okay if I connect back with you on some more questions? Any other questions? Yep. Yeah, I'm really liking the inflow of questions. Would love to answer more and more questions. So if there are any more questions, I'll be more than happy to answer. How to confront the challenge at workspace? How to confront the challenge at workspace, especially when I miss seniors' guidance and there is no way to overcome the situation? Is that's the dead end? Should I give up? How to confront the challenge at workplace when I miss seniors' guidance and there is no way to overcome the situation? Okay, so it can be definitely challenging if there is no guidance available, and if there is if there is nobody to sort of guide. what I would suggest, but is though it's a difficult situation, but still what can be done is again important to think that what could be the various solutions. If you're not finding guidance from source A, is it possible for you to find out to get the guidance from source B? You can look at that. See, another important thing is that most of the times all of us all of us get stuck with a problem oriented situation, right? And where we can try to then say that can how do we become more solution oriented. So the question that you put here is undoubtedly a challenging situation. So what I would suggest is, one, try to look at the alternatives. If you cannot get guidance from one source, can you get guidance and help from other sources? One is that. Two is then, and along with that, whatever looks, whatever comes to you as a result of your understanding of the situation and of the work situation I'm talking about, and then if you can go ahead with it, then you do that, and that could be the next thing. To give up in any situation to the extent, again, we need to maintain a balance, I would say, and then see that why to give up when we feel if there is something more that can be done. For example, finding out other sources of guidance and some kind of information. And if you feel, yeah, it's a closed thing and nothing can be done, then try to see are there other routes available and try to explore them. Always, if there is one door that closes, always there are other options, other doors. Always open up to look if there are other sources of guidance that can be possible. Yeah, maybe you could go to other seniors and then see that, you know, if you could get the situation some other way. Sometimes you can go with multiple options and then see that in the given situation, these are the various things that come to my mind, or these are the various options that come to my mind. Do you think that this is a good one for me to go on and do? If sometimes you could go and discuss, sometimes you could even go and discuss and share it across the mails as well. You could do various options and then see if something works out. If there are any more questions, then yeah, but don't give up. Don't give up. You will always find a way. Spiritual friends, you will always find a way. Yeah. Are there any more questions that we need to that I need to take up? Anybody? Any more questions? Thank you. Thank you so much, Dipesh. I am glad that you liked the presentation and you liked the clarity. My pleasure. Thank you. Thank you. Before we close, once again, I want to iterate and tell you, all lovely people who are there attending the session right now, is that please remember, what makes it more problematic for us is the thought and the mindset. Work on that first. Skills you will be able to get with practice, and they're comparatively easier to get. But most important part is when we work on what is the obstacle that we are facing, what is the hindrance that we are having with respect to the fears, the apprehension, with the I don't knows, with the what ifs, and working on that is actually winning the game. Okay, so there is a question, how to handle questions in interviews which we are put in pressure situations. I think I've already answered that. This was one of the questions put in the beginning. So still, I would like to say that when you're put in pressure situation in interviews, don't take that pressure. You are there to answer. Maybe the person is just trying to test how much pressure can you take, how do you handle pressure. So don't take pressure. Whatever you're being, it's an interview. It's not a matter of life and death, right? So whatever you know, answer. Whatever you don't know, say, yeah, this much I know, and this much, I say that whatever you know and whatever you don't know. Yeah. So if there are any more questions, we will go ahead, and if there are no more questions, then shall we close for now? Okay. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Uh, thank you. Thank you. You've been a lovely audience, and I've loved answering your questions. Um, Absolutely fantastic. Thank you so much, and wish you all the best. Have an amazing, amazing career ahead. May you all transition into senior roles, and have an amazing career.